What up, fight world? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. So buckle up. This is gonna be a fun video, and I'm gonna try my best to explain this whole Canelo versus Triple G situation. Saul Canelo Alvarez, I was born ready, said some things about Golovkin. I'm gonna try my best to break it down. Now, the reason I say buckle up is because I feel multiple types of ways, and you got to look at an instant by instant type of situation. Before I get into that and what I'm talking about, check out the Daily Star, link in the description. And Canelo Alvarez says everybody knows Kell Brook will get knocked out by Gennady Golovkin. They're slated to fight in September. Make sure you guys check out that particular link. Now I want to start off with the quote, and then I'm going to break it down and tell you why it's kind of hard. And Canelo said, "Is Brook being sacrificed? No doubt about it. We all know what's going to happen in the fight. I'm not interested in the fight itself, but he's going to knock Kell Brook out." He goes on to talk about Golovkin. He says, "I'm 26 years old. I've fought some of the best fighters in the world out there. Every fighter, I'm making history. Every fight, I'm making history. He's the older fighter, and he hasn't fought anybody. He's the one who has to worry about his legacy. I don't have to worry about mine. The fight's going to happen. It has to happen. But he hasn't fought anybody, so why would you put Triple G in the history books if he hasn't fought anybody? Why would fighting Triple G make someone a Hall of Famer when he hasn't fought anybody? Everyone knows that I'm the A side. The fight will happen when I want it to. That's the way it is." Now, I feel multiple types of ways, and the reason I keep saying that and why I'm saying you gotta take it instant by instant is because there are some things that Canelo is saying, in my opinion, that is true of Golovkin. But then you could say both sides have been hypocritical with certain matters. So I'm going to try my best to break this down. For example, Canelo, I talked to Paulie Malignaggi and he said it. I'll try to put the clip in this video. He says, "How can you say the man hasn't fought anybody and he's trying to fight you and you won't fight him? You just went on and said, I'll fight him when I'm ready. I'm the A side." You know what I'm saying? So his resume is not great, but at the same time, he's been calling you out and he sounds down to fight you, but for whatever reason, you or your team have not taken him for the fight. You know what I mean? It is what it is. Like, oh, and the thing that looks bad for Canelo is that he has a lot to say in interviews, and people want to see actions. They don't want to just read a bunch of quotes, and you don't sound scared based on what you're saying, but your actions have to fall in line with that. So that's one thing. This whole thing is a mess because it's everybody jockeying for a position. There's things that Canelo is doing that I clearly see the Golovkin point of view, like stop talking and just fight him. You know what I mean? Don't say he hasn't fought anyone. If he hasn't fought no one, he should be easy to beat. Fight him, right? But you're saying the fight will happen when I want it. But then there's other things where Team Golovkin has said we'll fight anyone from 154 to 168. And when it comes down to it, you will only fight Floyd Mayweather, the smallest 154 pounder, a guy who was weighing like 146 before he fought, I forgot what fight it was, maybe Canelo, and a guy who's clearly not as big as the Charlo brothers. Or I've seen pictures. There's a picture of Floyd Mayweather at a basketball game with Peter Quillen, a middleweight. He looks tiny compared to Peter Quillen. Now, if you put Peter Quillen next to Golovkin, it's not going to be the same type of size disparity. Maybe Quillen's a little bit taller. I met Quillen, right? He was at Ward's last fight. So I've met Golovkin too. And I guarantee you it wouldn't be the same. He wouldn't look as small as Mayweather did next to Quillen. So don't say you'll fight anyone from 154 to 168. So there's a lot of double talk from both sides that has this where it's like you could really play both sides of the fence if you're being objective. If you're a diehard radical fan where you only see one way and no matter what you're always going to ride with your fighter on some gangbanging shit, then of course you're just always going to side with Canelo on every issue, or you're always going to side with Gennady Golovkin. Let me get into this real quick because I don't want to spend too much time on the dumb shit, but there's a lot of, it's funny to me covering boxing, being a commentator, doing the reporting stuff, is you got a lot of ignorance on the internet, and that's what we know is going to be the case when you give everybody a voice. There's no accountability. People have all types of stuff to say. When I say good stuff about Canelo, like 7 reasons Canelo beats Miguel Cotto, when I made that video, All the Canelo supporters and fans, the people that love Canelo, had no problems with me. They're like, yeah, you nailed it. You're talking that real shit, right? Because I said what you wanted me to say. You wanted me to predict that he was going to win. And I was right with that prediction. However, as soon as Canelo's in the hot seat and I bring up a criticism like, hey, why did he give up his belt like that? Why didn't he fight Golovkin? Now all of a sudden, I hate Canelo. Some people say, oh, you're a racist and dumb shit like that. And I don't have to do this. I just do it because I can, right? The great thing with new media, like I keep telling you guys, and the internet, is this is all documented. And the boxing industry, as far as the fans, some of the fans are straight pussy. That's the best way to put it. In the terms of they're gonna hurl out all these insults and say you're racist and stuff, but you should be able to determine something someone did that was racist. Like, okay, if I'm racist against, let's say, Mexican people, then what did I say that was racist? Canelo shouldn't have vacated his belt. How is that racist? You know what I mean? Or you look at fighters like, let's say, Mikey Garcia. This is all documented. Type Mikey Garcia boxing ego, search it, and see what I said about Mikey Garcia. Mikey returns after 2 years. Mikey's lawsuit. He's released. Mikey gets a fight date. Mikey calls out, or Gamboa. What did I ever say about Mikey Garcia that was negative, right? Or hold him to the same thing? That's my whole point. I didn't, because Mikey Garcia has never done what Canelo has done, right? And Mikey Garcia is one of my favorite fighters. So that's the thing. All these people want to like throw these labels like, oh, you're racist. Then it should, if I'm racist against a whole race, you should be able to tell me, one, what I said that was racist, and two, the same rules should apply. You know what I mean? You should be able to tell me and distinguish. But you don't hear me saying what I've said about Canelo, about Juan Manuel Marquez. You don't hear me saying about Mikey Garcia, because they never did this. They never did what Canelo did, right? Meaning talked all this big and bad stuff and didn't fight, right? Even the Mikey Garcia Gamboa situation, you could say he ducked Gamboa. Okay, I'm fine with that. But it didn't play out like this. He wasn't making Mikey wait, and you know what I'm saying? Mikey wait and fighting at a certain weight, and as soon as Gamboa became his mandatory, then he all of a sudden went down and fought someone we don't know. You know what I'm saying? All that, what's happened with Canelo's specific career, has never happened. And that's the funny thing. A lot of people are going to throw these things out and say this, or, oh, you hate Golovkin, you hate this. I've made plenty of videos praising Golovkin. And again, I don't have to do this. I'm doing this because I can. You look at Golovkin, right? Golovkin, boxing ego. Now, you'll see a lot of recent stuff, but I did a boxing clinic, the Good Boy Manual, right? What else did I talk about? Talk about Canelo and Triple G. Golovkin insanely ripped for the Wade fight, right? Tons of Golovkin video. I was at Golovkin's weigh-in. Fighters afraid to fight Gennady Golovkin 1 year ago. See, some of you guys are groupies and bandwagon fans. Fear, scared, ducked, petrified, or terrified. I don't remember what I put. And I have Golovkin. So I made a whole video a year ago saying all the people that were afraid of him, right? Danny Jacobs calling out Golovkin during the negotiations, and I called Jacobs out for it. I said, why would you call him out when he's in negotiations with another fighter, right? Scared straight, Canelo versus Triple G, why fans are terrified of this matchup, right? So the list goes on and on and on. When it comes to Golovkin Award, I spoke my mind on that. So I could do this all day. If it's something against a certain person, then, or a certain race, it should be more apparent, right? I made videos when Canelo, not for future, you know what I mean? And the list goes on and on. That's what you call being objective, right? A lot of people aren't doing that. If they hate, let's say they hate Andre Ward, name a positive video that they've ever made of Andre Ward, where they just bowed down and gave him nothing but praise, right? Name the video, right? Name, if they hate Floyd Mayweather and you feel that, tell me the video. Like this video I did. No one beats Gennady Golovkin at middleweight a year ago. No one beats Golovkin at middleweight. Not Quillen, not Lee, not Lemieux. Hashtag boxing ego. And I could do this all day. There's more videos because I remember I put stars to watch for in 2013, etc., etc. 7 reasons Golovkin beats Lemieux. So it's not about protecting any fighter. De La Hoya feels Golovkin is worth 10%, Canelo's worth 90%. And in that video, I said that was utterly ridiculous to offer a man 10%. Golovkin, he ain't no bum where you could just give him 10% and Canelo gets 90. That's just retarded. So back to this video at hand. I just had to clear that up because no matter who is criticized, you always have these idiots who are saying these radical things. And it's a lot of times people project what they really feel. Like they're really racist or they're really biased, but they want to pin the tail on the donkey and say, oh, ego, you're biased. No, you just love Golovkin no matter what, even if he did something wrong. You just love Canelo no matter what, even if he did something wrong, or even if he made a decision that doesn't make him look good. That is the difference. I have no problem being objective. Moving on. So when it comes to Canelo, I agree with certain things that he's saying. He clearly has a better resume than Gennady Golovkin. I don't care what anyone says. In his fights, he has 49 bouts, and he started when he was 15, so some of those were just probably journeyman type people in Mexico. No different than Orlando Salido, Julio Cesar Chavez, guys who started boxing in Mexico and had to learn on the job because they didn't have an amateur pedigree, amateur background. I get it. But you can look at his resume, and there's better names. Valdemir, okay, he was 41. Cotto's brother. Leonardo Tyner, who just sparred Sean Porter after Keith Thurman got hurt. Lovemore, Nadal. Matthew Hatton, Ricky Hatton brother. Ryan Rhodes. Alfonso Gomez from the Contender. Kermit Cintron. Okay, right around this era, I was like, when is Canelo going to fight someone in prime? Because Kermit Cintron was a good fighter, if you watch his fight with Sergio Martinez, but it had been years since he had really done anything of note. Like, you click on Kermit Cintron, and just so we can see who knows their boxing. Saul Alvarez, when he fought him, he had 1 win, and he had back-to-back losses to Carlos Molina and Paul Williams, right? The Punisher. And then he had 1 win against Antoine Smith, whoever that is. Then he fought Canelo and got knocked out. So that was around the time where Canelo, he was fighting people that weren't, I wouldn't really say were in prime. Shane Mosley, another person that was 40 at the time. And Shane Mosley, another person who lost to Mayweather, lost to Pacquiao, and had a draw with Sergio Mora before he fought. Let's double check. See? Floyd, Sergio Mora draw, Pacquiao. This is off the top of the dome, people. Then he fought Canelo. So things like that. I mean, I'm not overly impressed because at that point, Shane had a couple losses back-to-back and a draw. He hadn't won in years, right? Then he fought Josito Lopez. Wasn't really impressed with that because that was a career 140-pounder who was losing to Victor Ortiz, broke his jaw, and then got thrown into that fight because Victor Ortiz was supposed to be the guy to win. Right around this point, this is where Canelo's career started to take off. Fought Austin Trout, undefeated southpaw. He gets credit for that. The only thing I didn't like in this fight, open scoring. He fought Floyd Mayweather, laced him up, and stepped in with him. He clearly lost that. It shouldn't have been a majority decision, but whatever. Angulo coming off a loss, but so was he. And then Edeslandi Lara. I thought Lara won by a round or 2. James Kirkland, Cotto, and Khan. So clearly he has better names than Gennady Golovkin, period. That's Liam Smith is a champion. That's who he's fighting now. So I agree with Canelo in that sense. But the biggest thing is, like I said, there's hypocrisy on both sides. You could say his resume is better, but maybe people aren't as afraid of Canelo. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what Paulo Malignaggi was saying. Like, some guys don't want to get in with Gennady Golovkin. But here's the thing. When it comes to Gennady Golovkin, I agree that he's avoided by some. But if you're 34 years old, you had some issues with your promoter before you got with K2, it's like you still have to find what you're going to do for your career, for your legacy. So when Canelo is saying stuff like, I'm not worried about his legacy, he's younger than Golovkin, and his resume is better. No matter any way you slice it, you could say Golovkin has a higher knockout ratio. The fact of the matter is he's 34 years old with a worse resume, right? Kell Brook, that if you beat him, you're beating a undefeated welterweight, right? So there's only so much credit that anyone could possibly give you for beating someone that you're clearly bigger than. It's like if you're a senior in high school and you beat up a 9th grader, are you the man? But if you're a 9th grader and you beat up a 12th grader, then you're going to be the talk of the school. Dominic Wade, who was coming off of a split decision to Sam Solomon, you could say it's his mandatory and he was undefeated, but I mean, he had a split decision with Sam Solomon, and if you know Sam Solomon, he's also like 40 plus, and Jermaine Taylor was destroying him when he hurt his leg. He has 14 losses, and he's been KO'd 2 times, 31% knockout ratio, and I could say he's tricky, but he came off the loss to Jermaine Taylor where his leg was all fucked up, literally a year before he fought Dominic Wade, and Dominic Wade still had a split decision. So it satisfied a mandatory, but that's not that impressive for Golovkin. You know what I mean? A guy, he had 19 fights, 18 at the time. It's just that's not impressive because I hadn't really seen enough of Dominic Wade, and I heard some stuff, and I'm not going to put his business out, but heard some stuff about his training preparation. Same thing with David Lemieux. He was a recent champion, got a vacant belt, been stopped before by Marco Antonio Rubio, things like that. So it's tricky. See how he's 2 KOs, one from Golovkin, one from Rubio, and he also lost to Josim Alcine, who never really blew up, and he went on to lose to the Charlo brother, got knocked out by Matthew Macklin in the first round. He has 8 losses, 5 KOs, you know what I'm saying? And this is the guy that beat David Lemieux. You could say, oh, it's because David Lemieux's his camp or his training wasn't good, whatever. Look at the Skittles resume. Taste the rainbow. You know what I'm saying? Look at this. He beat David Lemieux in 2011. The very next year, he got knocked out by Matthew Macklin via KO. And Macklin is a guy that Golovkin pulverized, and a lot of other people beat Matthew Macklin. So Sergio Martinez beat him before Golovkin. 6 losses, 4 knockouts, right? I'm just being real. This is a middle of the road type. He lost by knockout to Jorge Sebastian Hyland, Golovkin, told you Sergio Martinez, and so look at this. I'm just so you guys, I know people don't know boxing, so that's what I'm trying to show you. So he lost to Felix Sturm. Then he got stopped by Sergio Martinez, I think in the 11th round. And off of that, he was able to beat Josim Alcine by KO in the first round. And it was on somebody's undercard. I forgot which fight. I want to say maybe Sergio Martinez versus Chavez Jr. And my memory is great if that is actually true. So you guys tell me in the comment section if I'm correct. But the bottom line is this: a guy coming off of 2 losses, who has a total of 6 losses now, 4 KOs, but coming off 2 back-to-back losses, was able to beat David Lemieux at the time, right? He was able to beat David Lemieux. It doesn't seem like a guy, if David, you know what I'm saying? That doesn't seem like a guy David Lemieux should have lost to. And you see, he lost to Rubio, got knocked out. Then the same year, he lost to Josim Alcine. So Golovkin beat him. He was a champion, but I still needed to see more. Hassan N'Dam had been knocked down more times by Peter Quillen, 6 times. Lemieux knocked him down 4 times, looked pretty good in the fight. Gabe Rosado been beat by Angulo and stopped. He had been stopped by Peter Quillen, I believe. He had been stopped by Golovkin, and David Lemieux beat him. Fernando Guerrero, he had been stopped plenty of times. I think he had been stopped before. I don't think he has a great chin, right? Yeah, 4 losses, 4 KOs. These are the people David Lemieux beat. Now, he looked impressive, but you got to take this into consideration. Peter Quillen stopped him too, yeah, before David Lemieux. So when David Lemieux fought Golovkin, I already knew what time it was. I knew. So what Canelo's saying is absolutely real, and I could do this all day and go through Golovkin's resume one by one, and I'll show you. You won't find many undefeated like threats, like where the threat level was just through the roof. You know what I mean? David Lemieux was a threat on paper because he has cracks, but if you look to his career, I mean, why would he beat him? You know what I mean? Curtis Stevens had been stopped before. Willie Monroe hadn't been stopped, but he had lost to Darnell Boone, right? A guy that Kovalev beat. Adonis Stevenson lost to him too, but I don't know. Martin Murray, guy who's never won any of his big fights. Arthur Abram later, he didn't win against George Groves. Before that, he lost to Sergio Martinez in a controversial fashion. Felix Sturm, I believe, was a draw. So you go down, Canelo, what he's saying is pretty accurate. You go down all these names. Matthew Macklin, we already talked about his resume. Nobuhiro Ishida, his claim to fame was beating James Kirkland. He was 150. These two were 154 pounders. Gregors Proska, since the Golovkin fight, what has he ever done? He took more losses, right? So he fought Golovkin, and then he lost his last two fights, Sergio Mora and then this guy. So again, you look at the reason I'm showing you, because you can't really look at people after, but I'm just telling you the talent level of people. If Golovkin was just this threat and you lost to him, that's fine. But the thing is, you look at these other guys and who has become a champion after losing to Golovkin. Like Canelo has won big fights since losing to Floyd Mayweather because he's a good fight. Miguel Cotto has won fights after losing to Mayweather. He won against Sergio Martinez, Daniel Gill, like middle of the road fights, you know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. But he beat Sergio Martinez at a higher weight class. But you look at Triple G's level of opposition. What have any of these guys like really done after him? You know what I mean? Curtis Stevens lost to Hassan Indam. Matthew Macklin lost a couple more times, because that's what I'm saying. They were a certain echelon of fighter. That's no other way to put it. I don't even know if Adama even fights anymore. What has he done since the Golovkin loss? He has 2 wins against people I've never even heard of. But he already had losses. He had multiple losses, 3 losses when Golovkin fought him. So, I mean, I agree with Canelo in that sense. And that's the only stigma. Golovkin looks like the best. It looks like when he steps up in class and to elite names, he could probably do very well for himself. I still got to see it. That's the whole point. So when Canelo's saying, who is he beat? I don't have to worry about my legacy. It's true. For whatever reason, he does have a better resume at the moment, because who is Golovkin beat that you would consider a world beater or a first round Hall of Famer? Period. That's answer that question, right? Because I could tell you people Floyd Mayweather beat that will go down as legends in the game or first round Hall of Famers. I can do that. I can tell you people Pacquiao has beat that will be considered first round Hall of Famers. I can tell you people Cotto has beat that are definite first round Hall of Famers, right? But I can't tell you that about Golovkin. So I agree with Canelo in that sense. But I agree with Golovkin in the sense that Canelo avoided him and he wants to fight. And Canelo's being like A-side master. So it's a dirty game, y'all. You got to be careful in this boxing business. So I want to provide some clarification. It depends on, a lot of people want to know what I think. It depends on what the subject is. But I think there's double talk from Golovkin's team. And there's also double talk from Canelo and his team. So it just depends on what the situation is. Do I think Canelo avoided Golovkin? Absolutely. Do I think Canelo has a point when he says that Golovkin is older than me with the worst resume? Absolutely. Because again, tell me from Golovkin's resume, and this is funny to me because Troy King, I did a video with him, right? And people didn't want to hear it. Gennady Golovkin's pro resume exposed by Troy King 6 months ago. Almost 10,000 views, right? And people didn't want to hear it, but he didn't really say anything that was false. Who is the elite level name? And I can only give you a certain amount of credit for people ducking you. I get that. He has been ducked. But Golovkin, early in his career, before he got with K2, he's fighting guys like Ian Gardner, right? 21-4. Well, who is this? 36 knockouts. You know what I mean? And I'm not gonna go too far into his early career because a lot of fighters build up and stuff like that. But when it got to around 2014, you have to step it up. You know what I mean? So okay, Sergio ducked you, Cotto ducked you, Canelo. They're not the only fighters in the world, right? Billy Joe Saunders ducked you. And you got to decide what you want to do. Do you want to, okay, everyone's ducking you. How about that? So you're going to just stay at 160 and keep racking up bodies that aren't going to make your resume stand out. It's not going to give you a Canelo level resume. So it's like I'm past the pity party. Like I feel bad that the guy gets avoided, but that only goes so far, and it doesn't change the fact that his resume is still what it is, right? What's the difference between a reason and an excuse? You know what I mean? Everyone has a reason why this happened or that didn't happen, but that doesn't change the actual facts. And the actual facts is Golovkin's resume needs work. Even right now, you can say Kell Brook's the toughest test, but that's a welterweight, right? And people commented on the video I just did with Troy King on this video about Kell Brook, and they're saying things like, oh, Kell Brook has 8 fights over 150 pounds. I don't care about over 150 pounds. He's fighting a killer at 160. What does over 150 pounds mean? Let me know what you guys think. Again, it's a touchy subject because everybody is trying to get some type of strategic edge. Golovkin wants the payday to fight Mayweather at 54, but he doesn't want to risk fighting the bigger, stronger kid who's younger, right, and has a more aggressive style than Mayweather and Canelo at 54 or 55. No can do. And then Team Golovkin is pointing the finger at the people who are avoiding him, but like Canelo said in an interview, Edeslani Lara called you out, I fought him, and you're not fighting him. He won't fight him. Why won't you fight Lara? And he said Lara's a great fighter that will give Golovkin problems. So, I mean, whether you agree with it or not, why is Golovkin not taking up on, like, I don't know about you guys, if you feel different, let me know. If you look at, this is how I know who knows their boxing. If you look at Edeslani Lara, his record isn't, it's like the people he lost to, you could argue he won. And actually, you look at it like this. The Canelo fight, I thought he beat him. So in my mind, that shouldn't even be a split decision loss. Then he had a Paul Williams loss. He clearly won that fight. If you want to be real, the fight with Carlos Molina, he probably should have lost instead of had a draw in that fight. I got to watch it again. But I remember he didn't look good in the Carlos Molina fight. So realistically, if anything, you could say he should have one loss against Carlos Molina, but the Paul Williams and the Canelo fight shouldn't be losses. So why wouldn't Golovkin fight a guy like this, right? He's a southpaw, tricky style, lots of amateur experience. So, I mean, I agree with Canelo and things like that. Why not fight him? I would give him more credit for beating a 54-pounder moving up one weight division than a guy like Kell Brook. Because, again, look at boxing. Who has a better resume, Edeslani Lara or Kell Brook? Lara's been in there with Vanes Martirosyan twice, Jan Zevic, who went the distance with prime Keith Thurman when he was like coming up and hungry. He's still undefeated. Del Rodriguez, okay, Cotto blew through him. Ishe Smith, Canelo, Austin Trout, El Perro Angulo, Freddie Hernandez, who just beat Angulo, Paul Williams, Carlos Molina, right? That's better than Kell Brook's resume. You look at Kell Brook's resume, you could say it's a money fight, but that's my whole point. There's a lot of things that both sides are doing, like, oh, this is a money fight. Yeah, he'll probably make more money fighting Kell Brook, so that's why he took it. But it doesn't. If everyone wants to paint this picture like Golovkin is more of a warrior than he is a businessman, and Golovkin was calling Canelo a businessman, then why are you taking the business fight instead of the more meaningful fight? Why didn't you pass up on Kell Brook when you couldn't get Eubanks Jr. and give Edeslani Lara a call? And it's going to be some excuse like, oh, we didn't have enough time or whatever. But look at his resume. BZA, Frankie Gavin, Jojo Dan, Sean Porter, Robeles, Vyacheslav Sinchenko, Carson Jones twice, Matthew Hatton, Lovemore Nadeau. Like, you know what I'm saying? Edeslani Lara clearly has a better resume. So it is what it is. Let me know what you guys think. Do you agree with Canelo? Do you agree with Triple G? Drop it in the comment section. Make sure you like my video. As always, hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video is Ego signing off.